Have you ever suddenly felt that you are disconnected from the world? Welcome, this is Bookspresso. I'll brew a strong cup of a book for you. After the story of the book is over, I will ask you the same question again. Please share your story in the comments. This is J.D. Salinger's novel, The Catcher in the Rye. The story begins with the protagonist, Holden Caulfield, reminiscing about the past in a mental hospital. His voice, rather than that of a 22-year-old youth, was full of cynicism and distrust of the world. He tells the story of a short journey after being expelled from school until he returned home. The story begins from the top of the hill at Pensy Prep. Holden thinks of this school as a truly hypocritical place. From the principal to his friends, he saw everyone as being steeped in pretense and vanity. He looks at the principal, who emphasizes the honor of the graduates, and thinks to himself, "I'd rather take a shit than listen to a phony speech like that." A huge wall towards the world was already built in his heart. He questions everything and laughs at everything. Even the kindness people showed him, he believed it wasn't sincere. His only comfort was his old red hunting hat, which was also his symbol. That hat was the color his younger brother, Ali, loved. He pulled the hat down low, trying to protect himself from strangers. To him, the hat symbolized his own world, disconnected from the world. He divided the world into real and phony, and classified most things as phony. Instead of facing the pain and loss he experienced head-on, he was disguising himself with anger and cynicism towards the world. On the train to New York after leaving school, Holden felt a momentary freedom. But that freedom soon turned into deep loneliness. He took a taxi, arrived at a hotel, and met strangers. In his eyes, they all looked like the same phonies. The women he met at the bar were only absorbed in their own interests, and he felt alienated in their conversation. Holden listened to their conversation, and suddenly, overwhelmed by a sense of alienation, he left the place. In the end, no one cares about me. They just talk as they please and then disappear when they get bored. He wandered the streets of New York with an empty heart. Like a wandering soul that could not settle anywhere, he roamed the streets. He wanted to talk to people, but when he actually did, he was soon disappointed by their impure appearance. He longed for innocence, but the world constantly hurt him. One day he met a small child in the park. The child was riding a carousel and laughing brightly. In his eyes, that child was an incredibly pure and beautiful being. Holden felt a temporary peace while watching the child. For him, a child was purity itself. The moment the child's laughter reached his ears, all the anger and sadness in his heart paused for a moment. He thought while watching the child ride the carousel, "I want to protect that child. I want to protect them from the dirty things of this world." At that moment, the most fundamental wound, deeply buried in his heart, comes to mind. It was the death of his younger brother, Ali. Ali was a truly pure and beautiful being that Holden had sincerely loved. When Ali died, he expressed his anger by smashing all the windows. He cried out to the world, but the world ignored his scream. Ali's death left a permanent sense of loss and guilt in Holden's heart. He suffered from self-reproach for not being able to protect Ali, and gained a sense of mission to protect all the pure things in the world. He thinks to himself, "I want to be the catcher in the rye." The rye field is a place where children play, a place full of innocence. But there was a cliff there, and the children, absorbed in their play, were in danger of falling off the cliff. Holden wanted to be the person who would stand in front of that cliff and catch the children so they wouldn't fall. That was the longing for innocence deeply embedded in Holden's inner self, and a desperate struggle for what he had lost. He wanted to sweep away all the phonies in this world and protect the innocent children. But his wish was contradictory to his actions. He cut off relationships with people and isolated himself. Rather than trying to understand others, he labeled them as phonies and strengthened his own defense mechanism. His loneliness deepened, and no one could enter his heart. In the face of the great loss of Ali's death, he was running away from the world. His wandering eventually leads him to his younger sister, Phoebe. Phoebe was the only person Holden thought was real. Entering Phoebe's room, Holden opens his heart for the first time as he sees Phoebe, who understands him. Phoebe asks Holden, "What in the world do you want to do?" In front of this question, Holden doesn't hesitate. He talks about the dream he had hidden deep in his heart. He confesses that he wants to be the catcher in the rye. His confession was like an inner scream, uttered with difficulty while holding back tears. Hearing his sincerity, Phoebe understands her brother, and she gives her hunting hat back to Holden. It was a silent empathy saying, "I understand your heart. I'll share your sadness." At this moment, Holden feels truly connected to someone for the first time. His loneliness was momentarily resolved and a warm feeling entered his heart. The next day, when Phoebe tries to follow him instead of going to school, Holden gets very angry.
"I can't let you get messed up too."
He was afraid that he might lose Phoebe's innocence as well. In the end, Phoebe went back to school for Holden, and Holden sat on a park bench and waited until she returned. Their relationship was the most important turning point in Holden's inner world. Through Phoebe, he realized what he truly longed for. The climax of the story unfolds in front of a carousel in the rain. Phoebe wears Holden's old hunting hat and enjoys riding the carousel. Holden thinks while watching Phoebe, "Phoebe is having fun. It's a truly beautiful sight." At that moment, Holden realizes that no matter how hard he tries, children will eventually try to climb higher on the carousel. He realizes that even if there is a risk of falling, they will try to move forward into the unknown world of growth on their own. He admits that he can no longer protect the children. He decides that when Phoebe tries to grab the golden ring on the carousel, he no longer cares whether she falls or not. This was the moment Holden was liberated from all the pressure and obsessions that were crushing him. He realizes that he no longer needs to be the catcher in the rye. He realizes that the meaning of his existence is not in protecting someone. He realizes that simply existing is enough. He looks at Phoebe in the rain and sheds tears. His tears were not of sadness, but of a great realization and relief. It was the moment all the walls built up in his heart collapsed. He finally faces his loss and pain head on. The story ends here. Holden returned to the mental hospital, but his heart was not the same as before. He no longer pointed his finger at the world and shouted, "Phony." He acknowledged his wandering and loneliness and became honest with himself. He accepts the imperfection of life and prepares to live his life in his own way. The Catcher in the Rye is not just a story about a rebellious boy. This is a story of warm consolation offered to all those who are afraid of becoming adults. Through Holden, we find our own selves, who isolated ourselves and criticized everything in the world. And we also, like Holden, realize that we can find true comfort only when we accept the imperfection of life and are with people who love us for who we are. We all have our own rye fields. We all wait for someone to protect us in front of a cliff one day. But this novel tells us that rather than waiting for someone, we can protect ourselves. When we face our own wounds, accept ourselves as we are, and tear down the walls that disconnect us from the world, we can finally gain true freedom. Have you ever suddenly felt that you are disconnected from the world?
This was Bookspresso.
Thank you.